A teraz poprosimy Ivana Owena o prezentację na temat drukowania w 3D. Zobaczycie za chwilę coś naprawdę niesamowitego i to nam pokaże, w ilu dziedzinach i jak cudownie może zmieniać świat, nawet sięgając do spraw, które są bolesne i trudne, to wszystko, co oferuje nam rewolucja cyfrowa. The floor is yours, Ivan.
So, hello, and I wanted to start by thanking the organizers of Sector 3.0 for having me here today, and to all the other speakers for the wonderful talks that they've given. I'm going to be telling a story around that's actually related to something that Professor Huang mentioned, which is inclusive innovation, specifically how 3D printing in combination with other tools like social media and our access to modern communication tools can be leveraged to take an idea that can start someplace like a garage and then grow that idea in a way by including others to help it to have impact out there in the larger world. So specifically, this is the story of how a project to create a prosthetic hand for one child in a garage workshop has grown into a global effort to create low-cost 3D printable prosthetic devices, specifically for upper limb devices. All of this started for myself personally with, honestly, a very silly science fiction prop. I'm an artist that creates science fiction props for things like very low budget movies and costumes and that sort of thing. I had shared a video of a mechanical hand that I made online, and this was seen by a gentleman in South Africa. What you see there is a photo of what's left of his hand. He's a carpenter and lost part of his hand in an accident. He saw the mechanical hand that I had built and emailed me asking if maybe he and I could work together to come up with a design that he could build in his workshop to replace some of his missing fingers. So we started collaborating using things like Skype so that we could video chat with each other and making videos, sending emails back and forth. We would create a component and take a picture of it and send it to the other person. And then we gradually iterated to the point that we were able to build him an index finger replacement from commonly available items that could be found in hardware stores, as well as some things that we built ourselves. Around this time, this was, again, an instance in which a video that he and I released was seen by someone else. It was seen by the mother of a child who was born without any fingers on his right hand. The child's name was Liam. So Liam's mom saw this video and then sent us an email and said, well, I see that you built a single finger. Could you maybe build an entire set for someone like my son? So then we shifted our focus, and using the tools that we knew how to use, things like a drill press and other standard shop tools, we started working on an entire set of fingers, which we eventually completed. This was our first prototype. It didn't have a thumb yet, but it was something that Liam was able to use to grab some basic objects. At this point, we found ourselves with a very difficult challenge, which was that Liam was going to outgrow this device as quickly as he outgrew his shoes. And for anyone that has kids in here, I'm sure you're familiar with how quickly children outgrow a pair of shoes. And that was going to be a very difficult task for us to try and keep up with. At that time, somebody advised me to look into 3D printing. Now, I hadn't used that technology before, but luckily there was a wealth of knowledge online, free tutorials, free software to use to start doing 3D design. So I was able to read those web tutorials and learn how to use 3D design, and then we also found a 3D printing company that was willing to donate 2 printers to the project, and we came up with this first printable design. After we had finished that, our hope was that other people could help us to maybe make the design better. So I put the files online where we released them with a public domain license, so there would be no patent. Anyone could use this for any purpose. And our hope was that that might motivate further innovation around this topic. Fortunately, one of the people that saw the design online was the man pictured in this photo. His name is John Schull, and he's from the Rochester Institute of Technology in New York. He has a background in open source software, and he thought, well, maybe if we make an online community where people can talk back and forth, this design could be even further developed. So to that end, he created a group on Google Plus called e-NABLE, and that's where people started joining from a very wide range of backgrounds. We had engineers, people from the medical professional, tinkerers, artists like myself. And then and what this allowed us to do is somebody would come up with an idea for a new component to go on to the prosthetic device. And then someone else would take that and make another iteration that would be further refined, and then eventually through groups of designers all working together and other people having input into the process, we would have a more refined version of something, which could then be included in the next version of the hand. So this is a very rapid form of development. There's also the unique ability within this sort of a framework to help people to own the technology that they're using. So this is a picture of a father and son, Peter Binkley and his son Peregrine Hawthorne. Peregrine, like Liam and many of the other children that these designs have benefited, was born without any fingers on one of his hands. And so they started innovating together, and they came up with a version of the hand that they designed together, collaboratively. And then they took their design and then shared that back to the open source community. Peregrine's knowledge as a user of the device, as somebody for whom this was intended, was very unique and was able to really help bring it forward in terms of its functionality and its durability. But furthermore, he and his father doing that together was an inspiration to other families that they too could be involved in the process of making these devices and designing them. So here you can see a young man named Ben teaching his older brother how to build one of these hands, and that Ben is later going to use. And then the parents of children started getting together with other families and teaching person to person. They would find somebody in their local area that was also in need of a device. And so it's this interesting thing where through digital communication, it's helped to foster in-person, face-to-face relationships as well. And then this process has been repeating. So the organization, the community has been making devices by matching people to people where they live or nearby to send hands. There's Liam, he's the first little guy. So each time that he outgrows his hand because of the community being so fast-paced, he basically gets an upgrade. So that's one of his most recent hands. There are recipients everywhere. So we have Brazil, USA, Turkey, the United Kingdom, China, Colombia. So this is something that is very repeatable. And what we've been finding is that people are wanting to become involved in this and volunteer their time. So it's very much relying upon the sharing economy. In addition to this being something that is happening organically with individuals, there's the capacity for this to have impact upon education as well. So oftentimes engineering students learn how to engineer designs, but don't necessarily have a real-world application for the knowledge that they're developing. So this is a photo I took of some students where I now work. I mentor undergrad researchers at the University of Washington in Washington State. And what this team is working on is a device that takes an armband that was originally developed for controlling video games, but they're repurposing it to read the signals in the muscles of the forearm and then control servos, which can later be integrated into a version of this arm that is motorized, giving it more functionality. So what this kind of open innovation, this inclusive innovation has led to has been a lot of growth in a short period of time. The community formed in July of 2013. At present, we have over 5,000 members worldwide, and that's continuing to grow as more people become interested in participating. Over 1,000 hands have been created and delivered to recipients at no cost to the end user. So this has all just been through a volunteer effort. And the cost of production continues to go down as we develop these designs. So the very first design in January of 2013 was about 150 euros in materials cost, took about 8 hours to assemble, and required 20 pieces of metal hardware. Now, after just 2 years of this kind of development, we have a design that it costs about 40 euros in materials, 3 hours to assemble, and only requires 8 pieces of metal hardware. And it should be noted that even for the first design, it represented a substantial decrease in cost from what was out there on the market. Typically, a prosthetic device of this type would be anywhere between 2,000 and 5,000 euros to obtain through a clinic. So this is potentially a way to lower the costs in this particular healthcare industry. And one of the truly fascinating things is, up until recently, the e-NABLE community didn't have any legal entity that actually represented it. It was a completely decentralized volunteer network. So after 2 years of development, we ended up with over 6 different designs for printable upper extremity devices from many different designers, and this was all done with a $0 budget. It was all just through volunteered time of the people participating. Moving forward, in an attempt to basically build upon this base that has developed through volunteer work, there is now the e-NABLE Community Foundation, which is a nonprofit that will support the community and then help to develop things like motorized versions of these devices, a web app and a mobile app to help size the devices so that it's an easier process to customize the designs. And then we'll just continue to carry it further from there. And in conclusion, one of the things that I think that this is a great demonstration of is that both companies that are both for-profit and non-profit now have the benefit of an unprecedented level of access to knowledge, to technology, and to each other. What this means is that we can approach problems in a new way to come up with unique solutions to unique problems, and that great ideas can come from anywhere. And then many organizations are starting to explore this. So I have a picture of the International Space Station because recently NASA decided that they wanted to crowdsource some ideas. And one of them was that they held a contest to find a good design for a clamp that can allow them to mount devices to the handrails inside the space station. So they put this challenge out there, described what they needed, and then the global community responded. And the best design that they found, actually, as it turns out, came from a small village of 835 people. So I find this to be very compelling. We now truly, it's always been the case that great ideas can come from anywhere, but we now live in a day and age where it is easier to find those ideas. So I greatly appreciate your time, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here today.